Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to St. Mark's Square. For those of you joining us for the first time, glad you're here. I hope you learned something that's really going to bless you, and I hope you're being blessed every day. And if you're a Christian, know it or not, you are being blessed every day. Well, today I'm making a video about Jesus' birthday, because I wrote in the comment section on it's Christmas time now, so I wrote in the comment section and numerous times about Jesus' birthday not being December 25th, but being September 29th. And I had people ask me about it. I had numerous requests for more information about this, so that's why I'm making the video. So, why would Jesus have to be born during why would Jesus have to be born in the time period around September 29th? Well, the reason is because the Messiah was to be born during the Feast of the Trumpets. And the Feast of the Trumpets was a 10-day period that crossed over between the end of September and the beginning of October. This is one of the feast days of the Lord. And for those of you who don't know the word feast, we hear the word, we think about a big old spread on the table, a lot to eat and all that. But it doesn't mean that at all. And what it means is set times. The feast days of the Lord are the set times of the Lord. Like the day of Passover, every year was on the same day. This is one of the set times of the Lord. So another one of the feast days, set times, was the Feast of the Trumpets, that 10-day period that crossed over between the end of September and the beginning of October. It's called the Feast of the Trumpets. And there were two silver trumpets blown. The first one is at the beginning of the week. Now, these trumpets were silver, because silver is the symbol in Scripture for redemption. So these are our redemption through Christ. That Feast of the Trumpets is what that's talking about. The first blowing of the trumpet, and trumpets were always used for an announcement, to announce something. The king wanted to make an announcement, or whatever it was. Trumpets were blown for announcement, primarily. So the first trumpet that was blown, this first silver trumpet at the beginning of the Feast of the Trumpets, was blown symbolically to symbolize the first coming of Jesus. But then you have that 10-day period in there. And at the end of that 10-day period, the second trumpet would be blown. So the first trumpet symbolizes his first coming. The second trumpet symbolizes his second coming, which hasn't happened yet. And the time in between, those 10 days in between, those symbolize the church age that we are in now. However long it takes Jesus to build his church, he said, I will build my church and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. However long it takes to build his church is represented by those 10 days in between the two trumpets. Yeah? So what we're going to look at here is Jesus' birthday. Jesus was born September 29th, 2 BC. And because we are talking about this today, I am wearing my pyramid t-shirt. Nice, huh? I made it myself. Pretty good, huh? And this is the Isaiah text. That if those of you who read my comments in the comment section, or the replies and the videos that where I talked about Jesus' birthday, I talked about the Isaiah text. That's this portion right here, and we're going to get to that. But right now, we're going to talk about the pyramid, because the pyramid is God's witness in stone. It was Isaiah, right here, Isaiah, that said in chapter 19, verses 19 and 20, Isaiah, being a prophet, prophesied about the end times, the last days, and he said, in that day shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof, to the Lord. And it shall be for a sign and for a witness unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. And then when you start, reading this initially, you think, well, this is like two different locations, in the middle of Egypt and at the border of Egypt. It sounds like two different locations. But when you look at the text in context, it's surely saying that it is singular in nature. So the middle of Egypt and at the border of Egypt is one place. And, and oddly enough, coincidentally enough, Egypt is the only place in the world where you can be at the border and in the middle of it at the same time. Because Egypt has always been divided between Upper and Lower Egypt. The border there is at Giza. That's where you'll find the Great Pyramid and the other pyramids that are still there. And Giza means border or edge. So Isaiah said, in that day, last days, shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord. And it shall be for a sign and for a witness unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. And it's there, all right. It's that Great Pyramid. It's one of the seven ancient wonders of the world. It's the only remaining of the seven ancient wonders of the world. And it is an absolute marvel in every way. Astronomical, geographical, mathematical, scientific, in every way, even historical. It is an absolute marvel. In all these things, it's an absolute marvel. So let me tell you what I'm talking about. In Isaiah, where he said that, there are two kinds of altars in the Bible. One is an altar of sacrifice, which most people are familiar with, most Christians anyway. But is also an altar of witness that was set up in different places. They set one up when they entered into the Promised Land. And an altar of witness is exactly that. It is a witness for God. And so what we're talking about here, based on the context, it's obviously an altar of witness. So in that day shall there be an altar of witness to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof. Okay, well, pillar, the word pillar could be translated as the word edifice. And edifice means something that is man-made, it's built by man. Like a building is an edifice. Any building built by man is called edifice. So it could have been translated an altar and an edifice. And it shall be. And it's not two different locations because Isaiah singularizes it. It, not they, it shall be. For a sign and for a witness unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. And so let me ask you, what is a sign for? Except to be read. You put a sign on a business so people can read it. You got street signs so people can read it. A sign is to be read. And a witness, a sign and a witness. What does a witness do but testify? And that testimony is what the witness has to say. So that's what we're going to look at, this sign and witness for God in the land of Egypt. And we're going to look at the sign and read it, and we're going to listen to the witness testify and tell us what they're saying, what it's saying. So, and I'll tell you, God wrote his message in three places. The first one was when God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons and days and months and years." Well, we know what seasons are and days and months and years, but it starts out by saying, "Let them be for signs." And again, what's a sign for but to be read? And so God placed the stars in the heaven, lights in the firmament, as it's described, to be signs. So I'll tell you, those signs are the most ancient of astrological signs that were placed there by God. They're not the ones we use today, because the ones we use today are a caricaturization of Satan to keep the world from seeing the signs and reading them, giving them something different to look at and believe in. And a lot of people are really, really big on all these astrological signs. But, and so is God, because he placed them there for that reason. So that was the first place God built or put his message about Jesus saves, which is the message of God. And the third place, the last place he put his message, was in the scriptures, the Bible. It's his message. Starts with John 3:16, Jesus saves. But the second place he wrote his message, that Jesus saves, that gospel message, was right here in this pyramid. It looks just like that. Okay. And in Egypt right now, there are 5 pyramids that are called extant, which means still in existence. Okay, and those 5 pyramids that are still in existence, they look like this. Here's just a graphical view of them like that. You see? And there's 5 of them. Now, let's look at the difference between them. Okay? Here, first of all, this is the Great Pyramid here. It's and all these other pyramids were, well, they came after, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Look right here. All these pyramids have descending passageways, yeah? Every one of them. Even the Great Pyramid. But then, if you take all these ascending passageways and cover them up, now they all start, oddly enough, looking the same, don't they? They all have descending passageways. But only the Great Pyramid has ascending passageways. So why do none of the others have ascending passageways in them then? I'm going to show you why. Because they, first of all, understand this, they built what they saw. That means the pyramid, the Great Pyramid, had to be the first of the pyramids. And every other one that was built afterwards was built based on what they saw when they looked at the Great Pyramid. And they went in there and they saw these descending passageways, but they did not see the ascending passageways. And the reason for that is because that ascending passageway, it has, let me see if I can find a better picture here for you. Yeah, you can, let me see. Yeah, here we go. Okay, now look at this one right here. This is the pyramid here. Okay? This is, and you can see the passageways in it. Okay? This is the passageways that blown up, exploded, so you can see better. Now right here is that first ascending passageway, as it's called, right? Now you can see that little black thing right there. Look at that. You see it? That little black thing is a 15-foot long granite plug. "15 feet long." And it's so finely fit in that ascending passageway, you can't put a piece of aluminum foil up there in between it and the passageway. So when the other pyramid builders came into the pyramid, they could not see, they couldn't get up into those ascending passageways because they were blocked by a 15-foot long granite plug. So when they built their pyramid, they just copied what they saw. And that's why you can see that it is the only pyramid with ascending passageways. And the reason is because they could not see the ascending passageways when they went in there and looked. Okay, so let's take a look at it now. Okay, so this is so interesting, and I'll tell you the truth. I never would have given this pyramid a second look if it hadn't been for Isaiah, because I'm old. I was born again at Billy Graham Crusade in 1978, And in 1978, when people were talking about the pyramid, it was wacko, man. They used to say the most bizarre things, like, if you take your scissors up in the pyramid, up into the king's chamber up there at the top, your scissors will get sharpened, And that's weird, man. If you take a dead cat and put her up there, it won't decay. It'll stay mummified. Weird stuff. Okay, these things are not a witness for God. No, they're not. And that's why I say I never would have given the pyramid a second look if Isaiah hadn't pointed his finger at it. And Isaiah's geographical, reference to that location is so precise. You could give it to a surveyor and have him drop a plumb line on it. And the plumb line has at the end of it that little plumb bob. It's got a little point sticking down at the ground, and that point marks an exact spot. And Isaiah's coordinates, the geographical location of Isaiah's coordinates are so precise, you could give them to a surveyor and say, drop a plumb line on that. And they'll land right on top of that pyramid. And if it's not that pyramid, then you got to move it out of the way and make room for what it really is. Or it's the Great Pyramid. I'm going with the Great Pyramid. So this thing is so incredible. It has astronomical, geographical, scientific, mathematical, elements incorporated into its measurements that are absolutely undeniable. Pi is incorporated in there. The golden means, the golden ratio, which all architect and architecture uses to build with, and it's just everywhere in there. And a number you'll find in this pyramid that permeates this pyramid is 286.1. Okay? It's when you go into the entrance to the pyramid, it's off left of center, 286.1, what are called pyramid inches. Well, what is a pyramid inches? Well, I'll show you here. And then let's see, take a look at this. This is what the architect used for a unit of measurement. Right here. This is the Earth cut in half right on the polar axis, North and South Pole. And that sheer face right there, if you divide it up into 500 million equal units, this is what the architect used for a unit of measurement. And one of those units, one of those 500 millionth parts, are called a pyramid inch. And the only other place you're going to find this unit of measurement used is in the American and British inch and the Bible. 18 of these pyramid inches make up what's called a royal cubit. And 25 of them make up what's called a sacred cubit. And that's the only other place you're going to find the inch used. Isn't that amazing? That's interesting. That kind of makes you think, well, let's see, if it's the British inch and the American inch, does that mean they're like God's people, or what's up with that? What's that mean? Is there any kind of significance to that? Well, yes, there is. Because of what are called the lost tribes. And if you're not familiar with the lost tribes, that'll be another teaching later on. But the lost tribes came to England, the Isles over there, the British Isles, and the United States, among other places. And but that's another subject. We'll get into that another time. So this pyramid, it is just absolutely amazing because it tells things that who would have known? It's over 4,500 years old, and it has things in it that describe it that are absolutely amazing. Let's see what page I'm on here. This is page 11. I'm going to go to page 11. Let me go to page 11. I'm going to read a little bit of this for you. It says, I found that, this is a sign and a witness for God in the land of Egypt. If it's not incredibly interesting to you, I don't know why not. It was always incredibly interesting to me. I couldn't wait to get more teaching on it. My teacher taught me. I had the same teacher for 25 years, and he taught a lot on this pyramid. for, in the course of time. This is, right here, this is the land mass of the earth right there. And right there where these two lines cross, that is the exact center of all the land mass of the world, the earth. And that exact location, that's where the Great Pyramid is. Is that a coincidence? What do you think? It's 30 degrees longitude, 30 degrees latitude. 30. You think that's significance in there? 30 was the number of pieces of silver that Judas received to betray Jesus. And 3, Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. There's significance to it, trust me. So that's where the pyramid sits. Yeah? But the architect, let me see. So the Great Pyramid was placed in the exact center of all the landmass area of the world. Lines drawn through the North-South Pole. They show you, that's what I just showed you. That the architect knew where to find the poles of the earth is evidenced by the high degree of accuracy in orientating the building true north. Now this is phenomenal. This is amazing to me. Modern man's best effort, the Paris Observatory, is 6 minutes of a degree off of true north. The Great Pyramid today is only off 3 minutes of a degree, and that is after 4,500 years, due mainly to subsidence. Which, because that that pyramid suffered a tremendous earthquake in the 13th century, and that's why it's off today. Such near perfection orientation is exceedingly hard to secure, even with modern astronomical equipment, and seemingly impossible without it. If the knowledge of the magnetic needle was known, it wouldn't have been of little value. It points to magnetic north, not to the true north. The celestial pole is a point, usually a star, through which the polar axis of the Earth would pass or projected into the star sphere. And true north is something we've only relatively recently been able to determine by triangulating with satellites. And this pyramid did it over 4,500 years ago. How was that possible? Except that the architect knew where it was. So, when you look at it, it's in the middle of the largest land mass of the earth, of the world, right? And it is, I'll tell you what, I have just always been so profoundly, incredibly amazed by this location and all the scientific evidence that is in there, things that nobody could have known. How would it be possible to have known these things? And I'll tell you what I'm talking about. It is incorporated in the pyramid's measurements are the distance from the earth to the sun, the distance from the earth to the moon, the weight of the earth. Inside the king's chamber up above is the average temperature of the whole entire earth. You take it all out, average it, 68 degrees. It doesn't change. It doesn't vary up there. All these things are incredibly amazing because they were incorporated in the measurements of this pyramid over 4,500 years ago. So who could have known that? The architect obviously knew, but who was the architect? If the architect wasn't God, then I'm believing a lie. But I think it is. One reason I do, amongst many others, not in spite of all that evidence, that scientific, geographical, historical, and I'm going to get to the historical part, astronomical, historical, apart from all of that, there's this right here. And this is the one I kept putting in, and why I know Jesus' birthday was September 29th, 2 BC. It is the Great Pyramid text of Scripture. And again, I quoted it earlier. It says, "In that day shall there be an altar to the Lord in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Lord, and it shall be for a sign and for a witness unto the Lord of hosts in the land of Egypt. You can see the Hebrew writing there. That is the text from Isaiah. Okay? And then down here you can see all these numbers. Okay, I'm going to explain what that is. And what that is in ancient Hebrew, they didn't have written numbers like we do today. They gave each letter of their alphabet a numerical value. And so, the same thing with Greek. They did the same thing. Alpha is 1, beta is 2, kappa is 3, epsilon is 4, delta is 5, and so on. So every letter has a numerical value. So if you take this text in Isaiah, and you give each letter and each word its numerical value, you can see here, look at what they did. You see, they did, let's see, oh, no, that's not it. Sorry about that. Let's see. It is, there we go. It is, there we go. Come on, you. Uh-oh. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. There we go. You can see that they got a row of numbers here, and a one number at the end, right? Over and over and over again. Each one of these is each individual word in the text, okay? And when you get to the bottom of it all, you can total it all up. Give each letter's numerical value, total it all up. That grand sum total of all the words is called the gematria of the text. And that's the numerical value of it all. Well, the numerical value of the text in Isaiah is 5,449. And look here. Can we read this? Oh, you can't really read it there. Oh, that's too bad. It's it's the same thing right here. This one right here. Can you see that? It says that the total value is 5,449. Now, look here. There it is right here. Right there. That's it. Now look, what's it say right down here? It says, right down here at the bottom, the height of the Great Pyramid in pyramid inches equals 5,449. The same number as the gematria of the Isaiah text. You can say that's a coincidence, Personally, I don't think so. But I could ask you, if you think that's a coincidence, then let me ask you this. How many coincidences is it going to take before you see coincidence after coincidence after coincidence, and you finally say, oh, hey, hold on a second now, maybe there's more to this than just coincidence. And indeed there is. The height of the pyramid, 5,449 pyramid inches. The text of Isaiah, 5,449. Not a coincidence. Well, here's another interesting thing about this. And I'm showing you this is like, scientific evidence concerning this pyramid. And I'm showing you that right now to give some validity or substantiation to it. Because no other, pyramid in history has ever demonstrated all these things in its measurements. So here, the pyramid it's concave like that, a little bit concave, When in the 13th century, this pyramid had what are called outer casing stones on it. They were smooth and shiny. They weighed between like a 15 to 30 tons each. They were so finely fit in place that they were off of true, being out of straight line, like 1/100th of an inch, over 75 inches. They cut these giant 20-ton stones perfectly with optical precision. How did they do that? I don't know either, but they did do it. There's no question about it. But in the 13th century, some of those outer casing stones, because of a big earthquake, loosened up. And so the people there in the area, they came and started using it for a quarry. And they started taking off all these outer casing stones and used them to build their mosques and temples and things like that with. But we would have never discovered this if they had not done that, which was all, I'm sure, all part of God's plan. And so this right here, you can see it's concave there a little bit. You can see the lines how they go in, right? And all these measurements, you will find the results of them down here on the bottom, okay? And what they're demonstrating are the three different calendars that we use: the sidereal year, the solar year, and the anomalistic year. And you measure those from these letters that are on those lines, and you measure from one letter to another, you get the total distance there. And each one of them comes out to 3,650.217, 0.256, and 0.279, I believe. And the difference between those calendars, those 3 years, is only about 20 minutes difference between them all. And one is relationship from the Earth to the Sun, the other is to a fixed star, and so on. So these different calendars that we use were incorporated and built into these figures in the concavity of the pyramid. And not only that those figures represent an absolute perfect representation of the curvature of the Earth, half of the Earth, the radius of it. Yeah? So if you took the pyramid and turned it over sideways, it would land on its side, it would fit the curvature of the Earth. Amazing. And there's just so many things like that, that are in this pyramid, and the measurements of it that are so, how can I say, validating to the knowledge of the architect. Well, the architect, when you look at this thing, could only have been God. And let's get into that, because this pyramid does show Jesus' birthday thousands of years before he was born. So that's how could the architect have known that if it wasn't God? How could he have known all the events that it shows in there, which are many? The Protestant Reformation is in there. The invention of the printing press. So you might say, well, why was the invention of the printing press earmarked in there? Because when Gutenberg invented the printing press, the very first thing he printed was the Bible. And that printing press made it possible for that gospel message to go around the world in printed form. And that's no small thing. I think that's why it is included in there. So then when you look at the passageways in the pyramid, you have to determine how you can find all of these dates. Okay? And look here, I'm going to show you this. Let me find this for you here. This is amazing. It is the two different astronomical points. Okay? There we go. Now here, this is the entrance to the pyramid right here. Let me just move that down a little bit. This is the entrance to the pyramid. This is that 15-foot long granite plug right there. Well, when you first come in, you can see this number 1. I put these numbers in here. This number 1 is marking right here in this passageway right there. There's a scored line put there by the builders. This is an extension right here. Number 3 is an extension of that scored line. And that scored line was put there by the builders. It's perpendicular to the angle of the floor, the descending passageway, which is 90 degrees. And what this does is, and astronomers know this, well, this is all science. What this does is it marks two different astronomical locations during a period of time that is called the precession of the equinox. Well, what is the precession of the equinox? Well, the Earth is on a wobble. So if you took like a big giant marking pin and put it right through the polar axis of the Earth and let it extend up into the sky and let it be like a marker, let it make a mark in the heavens as it rotated around, you would get something like this. It looks like this, a curlicue going around, showing where it went. And every time it comes around, it makes a new line. It doesn't start over again. It always makes a new line. And where it gets back to where it originally started and starts all over again and makes that first line again is a period of about 25,800 years. Those years are called the precession of the equinox. And this scored line that goes up, and this other line here. This line here that goes out up this descending passageway. If you turn around and you point it out there to the stars, then you can see I extended the line right there. You can't see it, but it's like an arrowhead right there. That's number 2. So these two astronomical locations, they line up one time in the precession of the equinox. So one's going up this way, and the one that's descending passageway is going up this way. And they go like this, perpendicular to each other. And they only line up one time in the precession of the equinox. That's once every approximately 26,000 years. One time. And I don't know if you've been to any observatories lately, where they for the public, but today with the scientific and computerized instruments and machines that they have, they can fix the stars up on a dome ceiling in any position that they would be in on any given date in history. So astronomers know that the last time that these two stars lined up was in 2141 BC. And the stars are named, one is from the Alcyone, one is named Alcyone from the Pleiades constellation. And for those of us who are Christians who read scriptures, we know Pleiades is referred to as the heavenly constellation. And the other one goes up to a Draconis constellation. Well, Draconis, we don't have to try too hard to see. We get our word dragon from that word. And the star in that constellation that this passageway marks is named Thuban. And I always thought this was really, really interesting because, I'll show you why, because down here, look at here, down here, this goes down, and it says right here, you can't really see it, but it says the pit. Up here it says the subterranean chamber, but below that it says the pit, like the pit of hell. Well, Draconis, that's the dragon constellation, one of the names of the devil in Scripture. And it marks a star in that constellation named Thuban. Okay? And Thuban means subtle. And what's the very first thing God chooses to tell us when history begins to unfold on the stage of history in Genesis? Because you got chapters 1 and 2 are the creation accounts, and then starts chapter 3 verse 1, which is the unfolding of history. And artistically that would be like building the stage of history. And then you have Act 1 Scene 1 and Act 1 Scene 1. The very first thing is spoken says, now the serpent was more subtle than any. Oh, that's the devil. Talking about the devil. This is the Draconis constellation. This is Thuban. And the name of that star means subtle. And this tells us quite simply that it is under Satan's subtle influence that a man goes down to the pit. It was under that subtlety that Adam and Eve were deceived. And that's what this is showing us, okay? Now, of course, if this means the pit, this up here obviously means going to heaven. Up here, going to heaven up here. Okay? So now, if these two angles that go, this number 3 and this other one, number 2, that goes out, these two constellations line up, and astronomers know it's 2141 BC, well then, right up here, let me show you right up here. It's kind of hard to see. Number 6, let me see, I'll get a picture of it in here. I think it'll probably be easier for you to see. Number 6 is the giant megalithic stone sticking out of the wall, obviously put there by the builders, okay? And this is it right there. See that little black dot right there? That's it. Giant megalithic stone sticking out of the wall right there. That is telling us what the architect used for a unit of measurement, like the key or legend of any map. That shows us the 1/500,000,000th part of the polar axis of the Earth, and the unit of measurement that was used, and that's what that is. So if you take 2141 BC, the year these two stars lined up like that, and you measure from that scored line anywhere in that pyramid and from it, and you use 1 inch, let it represent 1 year, then you can go anywhere in that pyramid, everywhere you have anything, any kind of a change, where you have something, an expansion, a contraction, a step up or down, a change of direction, anything. You can measure to that point and know what year that was. And for example, this right here where this, let's see, where it is, okay, right here where this 15-foot long granite plug is, right there, that 15-foot long granite plug, where it strikes the floor of the descending passageway, and you go over here from the scored line, you measure 1 inch to a year, then you know that date right there is 1453 BC. What does that mean? What happened in 1453 BC? Well, that's when Moses got the law from God on Mount Sinai after they came out of Egypt. And that 15-foot long granite plug there represents the law of Moses. And if you understand, this is going down to hell with no problem getting down there, but this is the way up to heaven, and it's blocked by a 15-foot long granite plug. That tells you that through the law, no man can get to God, because we're all sinners. All come short of the glory of God, because no one has kept the law perfectly. So through the law, it's not possible to get to heaven. That's what that's showing us symbolically. Okay? Well, look over here. You come down here, and I told you before, there's a number that permeates that pyramid. It's 286.1 pyramid inches. Center, the entrance off left to center, 286.1 pyramid inches. This grand gallery right here, it opens up 286.1 pyramid inches. And when you come down this descending passageway where it goes from descending to horizontal right there, then if you come back up 286.1 pyramid inches, you're going to find this is called a well shaft. You see, it goes right up to there, number 5. And what that is that's how you get up here. Because once you get up here, well, you can get to up there now. You can get up to heaven now. You got the big opening up here, and all these passageways. This one right here and this one right here. These are so small you can't stand up and walk in them. You got to crouch down, because this is going down to hell under sin, and this right here is under the law, because that's when Moses got the 10 Commandments or the law from God on Mount Sinai. So this right here is what's called the law dispensational period. It's 1485 years right there, 1485 inches. That's the period of the law. And the Bible says when Christ died, the law ended. Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to them that believe. So Christ died right here, number 5. This date right here, where it's number 5, that's 33 AD. And look at this. This is called the Queen's Chamber right here. And you can see the passageway to the Queen's Chamber is a little higher than the floor level of the Queen's Chamber. Let me just, that's about as big as I can make it. So you can see there's a little step down onto the Queen's Chamber, yeah? So if you take that floor level of that King's Chamber, or Queen's Passage, the Queen's Chamber floor level, and you take that line, which is the floor level, and you draw it back over here to where it hits this ascending passageway, right there where it strikes that little area right there is going to make a triangle right there, which is called the Christ triangle. And in that Christ triangle, you're going to find Jesus' birth. And not only his birth, you're going to find when he was baptized. Let me find it here for you, because I love this stuff, man. It's just so interesting to me. Everything is just, of course, everything with God is amazing to me. So this is the Christ triangle right here. This is that Queen's Chamber floor level coming back over here and making this triangle here. Okay, so if you take this and you take like a compass, one of those architecture tools, and you put there and you go like this, this is going to completely encompass the life of Christ, and it shows his baptism in 29 A.D. It shows his birth in September 29th, 2 B.C. and his baptism October 27th, and his crucifixion in A.D. 33. So his birthday is September 29th, 2 B.C. That's how we know. You measure an inch to a year. The architects made it plain and obvious that you can measure from the scored line anywhere in that pyramid and find the date. And this ascending passageway, this descending passageway I showed you, right? It goes down, all the way down. I said you come back 286.1 pyramid inches, you're going to come to that well shaft right there. And that date right there is 1521 A.D. What happened in 1521 A.D.? That is when Martin Luther started the Protestant Reformation. Here, take a look. Where this goes descending and then horizontal. You go back up 286.1 pyramid inches to this well shaft, and you come up here to where Jesus was born, died, and rose again. Right there, that date right there is 1521 A.D. Again, Martin Luther started the Protestant Reformation. And if you could see the difference in the growth of the church for the first 1,500 years, it pales in comparison by the growth after Martin Luther in 1521 A.D. came with and started the Protestant Reformation. That's only been about 500 years now. And the growth in the church from the last 500 years far exceeded the growth of the first 1,500 years. Because Martin Luther came out with that gospel message, grace, salvation by grace. And people started getting on board with that. Well, it's all just amazing to me, but to get up that well shaft right there, that well shaft, get up that well shaft right there, that would take, can you see it right here? There's a little tiny line going up there. You can't see it? Let's see, how about that? Well, it's right here going up from right here. It's hard to see, I know, but there's a well shaft going up that opens up right here where this grand gallery opens up. That's one end of it, and the other end is at the descending passageway. It's not humanly possible to get up that well shaft there. It's just too small. It would take a miraculous event, equal to nothing less than the miraculous event when God parted the waters at the Red Sea and they went across on dry ground. They could have never got to the other side without that. And we could never get up here to this grand gallery without a miraculous event. And that miraculous event was the crucifixion of Christ. And that's 33 A.D. So we can go up there and it's just, this pyramid is just filled with dates. Or this, right here. Right here, this number 8 right there. That is pointing to the beginning and the end of World War I. Right there. Number 8 is actually pointing towards that giant megalithic stone, but hanging down right there next to that black stone right there, there's a piece of stone coming down. You've got to stoop down to get underneath it to get into this, what's called the antechamber. I'll do all this more in detail some other time, but I'm just trying to explain why I know Jesus' birthday was September 29th, 2 BC. And if this doesn't convince anyone, well, there's a lot more stuff, not more stuff to look at besides this. I believe it's true. And one thing for sure, whoever the architect was knew about events that would occur in history thousands of years before they happened, and he had those dates built into that pyramid so people could identify them. And in the measurements of that pyramid, he showed the weight of the earth, the distance from the earth to the sun, from the earth to the moon, the average temperature of the earth, the average height of the landmass of the world. All these incredible figures are demonstrated in these measurements that the pyramid incorporates. And that's what does persuade me. I don't know about you, but and I think that if you want to know more, stay tuned, or you can go get yourself some pyramid books. This one is called The Great Pyramid Decoded by E. Raymond Capp. I don't agree with everything that's in there, but I agree with just about all of it, pretty much. There's a lot of good stuff in there to be gotten out of that. So there you go. That's why I believe Jesus was born September 29th. I know he wasn't born December 25th, that's for sure. So, if you want to know more, let me know. I'll tell you more. But for now, I think we've gone long enough. If people can't listen for too long, it's been a minute. So, well, thank everybody for listening. Hope you learned. Hope you enjoyed. And if you want to stay in touch, subscribe, hit the bell icon. You'll be notified every time I make a new video. And there you go. So God bless you. Thank you. Welcome and welcome back. And I look forward to talking with you again. Thank you very much.